And I had a great conversation with a lovely woman just this last week about my journey and about uh, what it took for me to go from my practice when I purchased it. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm an orthodontist, and in 2011, I purchased my practice. And at that time, it wasn't doing so hot, which meant it was cheap. So, that was cool. And we were doing, I think the year that I bought it, she had done just over $800,000 that year. And I thought, for sure that it was going to be a super easy thing to build up the practice because she had literally done no marketing and no one really knew who she was. And like, I figured I was pretty nice and energetic and a good orthodontist, and so I'd be able to, turn that around quickly. And reality slaps you in the face every once in a while, and it's not quite that easy. But jumping forward to the journey we're going to take today, I currently have a practice that does well over 5 million. And so one of the reasons that I formed this group and that I spend so much time making content for you guys, either for my social channels or for the courses or programs that I create, is that I did a lot of things wrong. I don't know anyone who's like really successful in their current space that didn't do a lot of things wrong, and I did a lot of things right. And on that journey, there's always a little bit of both. There's, testing ideas and testing strategies and learning new things and trying them. And some of them work really well and some of them don't work very well. And the things that work amazingly well that you hold on to and keep forever are sort of like the golden nuggets that everybody, in my opinion, should know so that everyone can do those things, because a lot of them are just like really strong, hardy business principles and they work in any business. And it just makes the path shorter and less stressful and less trying if you know what the steps are like to take to actually get to the place you're going. And I'm not suggesting that everyone wants a $5 million practice or wants all the stuff that goes with that. But I do know from speaking to as many women as I've spoken to that everybody really is looking for peace and happiness and success in the way that they've defined it for themselves. Meaning that will be different for every person. So how much money people want to take home or want to have something, to play around with, your income desires are yours and yours alone. If you want to have a flippin' $25 million practice, go for it. I say do it. But everyone will have an idea of what that looks like. And also everyone has their own idea of what a happy or fun or peaceful place to work looks at for them. Not everybody is nutso like me. I really love a high energy practice. I like to have fun. I like to goof off. I like to feel like it's a great place to be. I love going to work, and I have for years now because of what I've created. But in talking about a journey, so taking a practice from somewhere to like where it is that you want it to be, which is basically all that I did, there are some foundational principles, skills, tools, strategies that I think are really important for every practice and every person, and how far you take it, and the ones that you feel drawn to depending on where your struggles are right now. Latch on to those. I will say this, I did not do that journey from 850,000 to 5 million on my own. I don't know anyone, I really can't think of anyone that has done a journey like that, so like a big bump in production and systems and all of that stuff all by themselves. Not saying it's impossible. It's really hard. Everything gets easier when someone who's already done it just tells you what they did. And I know that sounds like simple and very like, duh, but it's absolutely true. If you want something that someone else has, the fastest way to get there is to just do what that person did. Or a version of it, right? That works best for you. And so over the course of the last 10 years, maybe almost 15 years at this point, it hasn't been just me. I will say a lot of it has been me consuming content that's teaching me things. So I've read so many hundreds of books at this point. So many books. I've done lots of courses and seminars and CE events and conferences and all of that stuff where, I am consuming information and material to help me better my skills and my knowledge to then implement that in the practice. And then I've worked with many people. So I've been in several masterminds. I've had a coach. I've always had mentors. And I have leaned on those people who, and I always make sure in my circles, there is someone who's doing better than me. And I lean on them for the things that work for them. And then I take that information and use it in the best way for my practice moving forward. And I will say this, education, I would say learning new things is the reason that I have the practice I have today that I love so much. But just learning things isn't enough. And I talk to people about this all the time. The gathering of knowledge, which all of us are super good at, especially if you went to school for as long as we did and you do hard things like we do. The gathering of knowledge is easy if you prioritize it. So if you take the time, to read a little bit each day, or you do courses or go to seminars or pay for CE or whatever, there are lots and lots of ways to like bring knowledge of things into your world. And we can talk about clinical knowledge. I think that's important. I think all of you know, I pride myself on being a very good orthodontist, but the things that I teach you guys through my content and my courses and my programs are about all of the other stuff, because I'm going to assume that everyone cares enough about being good at their specific job that they're doing, that they are taking courses and learning from people who are clinical experts on their things to do those things. The thing is, for me, and it always has been, the doing of orthodontics has always been the easy part. That's been the easy part. The harder part has been all of the other things. The people, the money, the culture, the marketing, like all the other things that go with business, because I didn't get a business degree before I went to dental school. All of that stuff has been the harder stuff and the place where there's been more to learn. And like I said, knowledge gaining is awesome. The hardest part is implementation. And that's actually where I've leaned on other people the most is, okay, I know all of these things I could or should be doing, or all these ways I could be a better leader, or all these ways I could influence my team or culture, or all of these things. How do I actually do the thing that I've learned? Because implementation is actually where change occurs, like where good things happen, where something will end up so much different than it is right now. And so my biggest piece of advice, if you are struggling with one or more areas in your practice, like that could be struggles with money, that could be struggles with team, with stress, with patients, it could be anything you're struggling with. If it is not the way that you wish it was right now, then in my mind, there are several things you can do about it that will be effective. First, let's talk about what's not effective. Complaining about things not being the way you want them, not effective. Complaining, bitching, moaning, venting, although sometimes makes you feel better for a second, doesn't actually change a situation. Action is the only way to change something. And I always say that's empowering. That means you can take a different action. You can do something different and it can be different. I truly believe you can design your practice and your life to be whatever it is you want it to be when you start taking the right action. For some people that sounds overwhelming, but this is like a baby step in the right direction. Each day ends up a different life a year from now. And so if something isn't the way you want it to be, then what you need to do is first define what it is you think you want it to be. So if right now you're like, nope, yuck, hate this, my team sucks, or people are complaining, or I'm not making enough money, or we don't have enough new patients, or whatever the yuck, the struggle is, this is what it is. What do I actually want it to be? What do I think would be the thing that would make me happy, that would make me excited, that would make me feel successful? Whatever word it is you're going for. What is that thing? Define it. Write it down. That's really how things happen, is you define where you're at, right? Be okay with reality. Know what it is. Like, this is what it is right now. This is what I want it to be. And then you can create the journey. And on that journey, it may be that you can learn all the things you need to learn through books and seminars and courses and programs and all that stuff. Fantastic. It may be that you don't know enough to get from here to there without the help of another person. May that be a coach or a mentor or a consultant or a marketer or whatever, but another person who can walk you down that line, or you can gather information from them. But the key to taking something from where you don't want it to be to the place where you actually want it to be is to take action towards that. Like I said, it can be teeny tiny baby steps. It doesn't have to be gigantic, but that actually is the key. And I'll walk you through my story here really quick because I'm not going to make this video super long, but that is all that I did. And people ask me how I figured this stuff out, or I don't know what the secret sauce is, the magic key, the whatever. There isn't one. I am not special, like in any way. I am a normal, average human. That is it. I'm a little psycho on like the energy front, but that's my ADHD talking, I'm pretty sure. So like but I am a normal person. I enjoy learning. I like a challenge. And honestly, every struggle that I've had in my practice, I have simply figured out where exactly it is that I actually want to be and then created a path to get there. And yes, sometimes the path was very zigzaggy because I didn't know which way to go or I tried many different things before I got there, but I was always taking action towards the vision, towards that vision. So that vision sometimes had to do with finances. That vision sometimes had to do with people. That vision sometimes had to do with how much I was enjoying my job or how much time I was actually spending at my job. So finding balance in my life has been a huge part of my vision over time. And that's why I'm trying to help you guys with the bits and pieces that have made a difference for me. And when my practice was purchased, it was like a cranky, sad place. And anyone who knows me knows I don't do cranky or sad very well. And I was struggling. The team was like cranky and nobody really wanted to work. And I was so different from the person I bought the practice from. They were struggling with me because I was very like optimistic and energetic and I wanted to change things and push stuff forward and modernize. And people just weren't really on board with that. And I started to feel pretty miserable at work. I didn't enjoy going to work. I found it highly stressful and highly negative, and we weren't making that much money. And so I wasn't really necessarily at the place where I was worried about paying bills month to month. But I was like barely taking home enough money, and I was like, I thought this would be easy just to like step it up. And it wasn't. But the very first place I started was that I knew I had to be in a workplace where I enjoyed going to work. That was critically important to my management of my stress, and my journey through my working life. I identified that quite early. And so as things were feeling just awful and I was questioning whether buying a practice was the smartest thing that I could have done because it didn't feel very smart when things weren't going well and me just being nice and a good orthodontist wasn't getting me where I wanted to go. My brother-in-law actually handed me a book one day and said, I read this book and I totally not my thing, but I thought of you when I read it. And I know you've been struggling, so maybe it'll help. And he handed me a book called The Happiness Centered Business by Patty Lund. And I read that book. I consumed it that weekend. I was in a place where I was sort of, I wouldn't say desperate, but lost. And I didn't know where to look or what to learn or who to turn to because up until that point in my career, the only CE or learning that I had done outside of dental school and orthodontic residency was clinical. So I was like, I need to know how to use the latest aligners and the latest braces and the latest mechanics and the blah, blah, blah. And that was all the stuff I was learning. But I wasn't doing any learning about the other bits and pieces of running a practice. And so I read this book and I was like, that's the key. I need to change the way the office feels, the energy, the culture, the communication, like all of those things. I need to fix that part. And then I knew that if I fixed that, the rest of it would be so much easier. So building the practice, growing the practice, figuring out marketing, like all the other things that I had to do would be easier if I enjoyed being at work and I was working with people that I wanted to be working with. And so that was actually where my journey started, was around people. And that's actually why it's one of my favorite things to talk about. And it's still one of my favorite parts of my job is managing people. It is not always sunshine and rainbows. And yes, it can be difficult, but people are awesome. Like they really, really are. And everyone is different. So it's exciting and new all the time because people see things differently. People have different motivations. People have different values. And that's cool. Like, I really like that part. And I think, back then for my team of like 4 or 5 people, I think I had, and now we've got a team of 11. It gets more complicated as you have more people, but it also gets more fun because you get more people in the mix. And the way that my journey went, we did slowly start making more money as the culture of the practice changed as I worked on things like communication with everybody. And that was just naturally through word of mouth. As we changed the way we interacted with people and with each other, then people started talking about how nice and fun and friendly we were. And so then like little trickles of word of mouth, I think referrals started to happen. And so the practice started to grow a little bit before I touched anything that had to do with business growth or marketing or any of that stuff. I didn't know what a KPI was. I wasn't tracking anything. I was like literally just trying to make work a super fun place to be. That was all I was doing. And after I felt like I was successful on that, I started to branch out what I was reading and who I was talking to. And then I started reading leadership books and business books and marketing books and going to courses and seminars, many of them outside of the dental world, just in the regular business world. And then as the practice continued to grow, as I started tiptoeing into those things and implementing the things I was learning, then I started to join things like business masterminds, where I was with people who owned, companies that were doing 10, 15, 20, $25 million and trying to figure out how I could apply the things that they were doing well into orthodontics. And basically, like, as simple as that sounds, I think that was basically the journey. And the information that I share with you guys is really just me trying to break down the bits and pieces and what has worked best and what is continuing to work well. I mean, our practice is still growing rapidly, and we don't plan on slowing that down. I have a business partner right now. We just hired an associate, so now we have 3 orthodontists and 2 locations, and so that train is still running because I like to keep it fun and exciting. So we like to keep making it harder on ourselves as time goes by. But all of the things that I talk about that have helped me and have worked for me, there's nothing that I made up. I don't know if that's helpful to you guys. There's nothing I invented. The people who invented all of these things are like long gone or very old. It's basically just like good business practice. A lot of it is centered around customer service, right? Treating people well. And then team interactions, like treating each other well and learning how to lead a group of women. I've learned a lot over time about the difference between the feminine and the masculine and how communicating with women can be challenging, whether you're a woman or a man, and how to do that for a group. And so I like to try to teach you guys those bits and pieces. I've done so much marketing over the years as I've tested everything that exists. And there are only a handful of things that I still do a ton of. And so I talk about that. There's a reason I talk about SEO and websites and social media, because those are the things that we spend time and money on. We do some Google ads and, some other things, and we play with, funnels and, doing other stuff. But there's sort of like the concrete things that really work. And then there's all of the adjuncts and things that we're always testing and trying to see if like a new message might resonate. And I get bored doing the same thing all the time. So I like to be testing stuff all over the place. So I'm going to end this video today by saying, I challenge you to draft your vision of your ideal practice if you have not done so. And because there is no way to ever get there if it's just loosey-goosey fluffy up in your head. It's impossible. It's not concrete enough. You can't make plans specifically to it, and it's too easy to change it or forget what you were thinking about. And so I always say, sit down when you're in a good place, feeling good. You got to be feeling good. If you're feeling like crap, don't do this. If you're feeling good, sit down with a pen and paper and write out what would be the ideal amount of money you would make in a year, the ideal amount of hours you would work in a day or a week or a month, how your team would feel, how you would interact, what kind of patients you'd be seeing, what kind of mix of dentistry would you be doing. Literally as many details as you can think of that would encompass sort of what this like ideal practice life looks like. Don't forget to include your personal life. I mean, as women, most of us have spouses or family or both, and like we have a lot of other responsibilities. So like, how much time do you spend at work? What does your life look like with your family? How much time do you spend with your kids, with your extended family, with your friends, doing your hobbies? Like those things all go together. Like it's really hard to separate them. I've never separated. I always try to, when I vision, I try to like think of my whole life and not just my work life or just my personal life, because they will tie in a little bit. And I always say work-life balance is like more like a teeter-totter than a balance beam. There's always going to be like some ups and downs over time, and because it's impossible to keep perfect balance, and you don't need to. What you need to know is, what do you want? What's your vision? And where are your priorities? And then how do you design your life to make all of that work together? And once you know what that vision is, then you can say, okay, that's where I want to be. Where am I right now? If you have an income, if you're like, right now my practice does $1 million, I'd really love it to make 2. Fantastic. Write that down and then start figuring out, like going backwards. Okay, well, if we're at 1 million now and I'd really love to get to 2, how fast would I want to get there? Do I want to be there in 3 years and 4 years and 2 years and 5 years? And then start figuring out, like, so how much dentistry do I have to do a month in order to get there? Where are we now? What can we track to see if we're making progress? What do I need to learn in order to do those steps? It's all about working backwards. I actually love it because there's never a question mark. Where am I now? Where do I want to be? Okay. How do I connect those dots? How do I draw that line? And if you can map that out for yourself and then review it regularly. Tell other people about your goals because you're more likely to, do things if other people know that you're doing them. And then figure out what you need to learn. What do you need to learn? Who needs to help you? And I get it. Believe me, I've wasted a lot of money on people who claim they could help me do something magically. By the way, magic doesn't exist. There is no magic poof button that all of a sudden takes away all of your team problems or magically makes you marketing maven who doesn't has new patients flowing in constantly without any effort from you. It doesn't exist. Things are always changing and there are always many strategies you can take. And so it's about learning and being adaptable and figuring out where you need help and getting help from the right people. And yes, sometimes I'm the right person and sometimes I'm not. I talk to women all the time, just so you guys know, where I'm like, I am not the person to help you with that. And I tell them to go find someone else. And I help them find that person if I can. My strength lies in managing people and growing practices. And there are lots of bits and pieces to that, but that's not always what someone needs. Right? Most often if there's a ton of personal work that has to be done in order to be able to take steps forward, I'm probably not your person. Because although I am trained in coaching and a lot of that stuff, I am not a life coach, I guess is a good word to put it. In general, I don't work with women one-on-one to just work on themselves. I mean, I love personal development and I'm working on myself constantly, but that is not my strength. And I know tons of people in the space who do that work. And so if I talk to someone and that's what they need, that's where they go. I just want you to know that I share all of this with you because I'm hoping to help you. And if I even just help one person avoid a little bit of stress, avoid making a mistake, feel like they're on the right path, know that they're not alone, know they have someone to talk to, that's why I do this. And I know I invite you guys all the time to send me a DM. I'm not joking. You can send me a message about anything. And if I can help in that moment, I absolutely will. And if I can't, and I know of someone who can, I will direct you to them. And if there is something that I can offer to you, whether that be free or paid, that can help make a difference for you, I will tell you what that is. I do this because I want to, definitely not because I have to. Like I said, I have a great practice and I make great money and I love what I do, but man, it feels good to help people shortcut. That's all I'm trying to do. Help you shortcut. So basically, that's my journey. That's sort of how my practice has transformed in a loosey-goosey way, and how I have been able to do that being not a special human in any capacity. And the reason I'm here is because I want to help you to do the same things, all of the same things. So let me know if I can help you. And if there's something specific you want me to talk about or teach about because you want a piece of content, that's why this group is here. It's to give you content that doesn't cost any money, and then you can do with it whatever you want. Anyway, for anybody who watched this, thanks. I really appreciate you guys.